talk about their experiences in the cartoon business. It's March 18th, 1998, and we want to continue with our Tales from Termite Terrace and Other Tooneries.
Very good. Very good. I haven't heard Termite Terrace in a long time. That was
Well, Bill, let's start out as friends. We may not end up that way.
well, it's
You can start because you're a better liar than I am.
well, I just seeing Bill here is kind of very nostalgic because he reminds me of the first time I think I saw Bill. He was on a little Piper Cub flying over our picket line at the Disney strike. And at that time I didn't associate him with the guy from MGM who was one of the leaders, you know, one of the people encouraging us on to victory.
Known as a Bolshevik.
It's funny, yeah. I think I don't know, guys like Little John, of course, were extremely influential because, you know, although maybe he was maybe just a year or two younger than I was, yet he was one of the senior, at that time, one of the senior luminaries of our business.
Really? Now he tells me.
Never knew that, did you?
It's kind of you know, odd to remember that because now since we've all grown up together, I don't see us in that strange relationship we had then. But I had just started this crazy business, and here he'd been in it for about maybe 10, 15 years. I don't know how long he'd been.
I don't.
You remember when you
Wait
started?
a minute.
When
No, I started in 1935.
35? Oh, then we were fairly.
I beg your pardon, 31.
31.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. It was
Because
10 years then. I guess,
Yeah,
10 years.
because you were already, see, as I remember, you were already one of the senior, you know, quality animators in the business, and so you had to have been in it at least 5 or 6
Yeah,
years.
well, when I said 35, I forgot that that's the time I came out to California.
Yeah.
I already quit the animation business in 1935.
Well, you made a mistake. You got back in it.
Yeah, but that airplane business is, I was working at MGM, and which is how many miles over to Disney Studios was quite a trip. And we only had an hour for lunch. And I used to go run over to the airport and get in this little, less than a little faster than a Cub, had to be. And I'd fly over the picket lines and wiggle the wings, and they'd wiggle the signs, you know. And I took Herb Searle over there too one time, and he damn near, he almost took the airplane over on me. He was so big, he weighed about 300 pounds. I hardly get off the ground. But then I had to rush back and land and get back to the studio in time because Quimby, the boss, was always watching to get me on something. And if I was a minute late, I could be fired.
Shay, Bill, you
Yeah, so I had to get in there on time and make sure. I had to do a little bit of quibbling on the time card a few times, but
you
we
know,
managed to work it out.
I remember one good thing about Quimby, though. I remember it had to be in the, I don't know, in the late 30s when Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera were trying to get the job of directing, you know, a unit at MGM. They came to Quimby with a great idea. I don't know if you remember this, but anyhow, I remember hearing about it and I was kind of startled. They went up to Quimby with the idea of if he would let them, you know, direct the pictures, they could do those pictures easily, say only in about 6 months. And then they could lay off the people and not call them back until next year and do 5 more pictures, or 3 more, whatever was needed.
I didn't hear this. Of course, I wasn't at the studio then. I didn't hear this.
Maybe not, but anyhow, so as I remember, maybe it was even Quimby that, and Quimby said, "Shay, boys, we can't do that. These are our people. What do you mean you're gonna lay them off?"
Really?
That was Quimby. So that's the one nice thing I can say about Quimby, that he was startled at this novel idea that later on Bill and Joe really started up, you know, when they started up their own studio.
Well, did Quimby himself know anything about animation?
No.
No, he was just...
His claim to fame, he was a short producer, and he had made his mark by staging and arranging to photograph the Dempsey Furco fight, I think it was. And that's what he did, he made a short out of that to fight, with a short fight. Anyway, from there he got into making live action films. And when they set up the MGM unit, as I understand the story, they didn't know he wasn't doing so well or something, so they said, okay, you run the animation studio. And he didn't know anything about it. He didn't know tiddly boo.
No,
He didn't know a gag when guys would go and tell him a gag, and he didn't know what was funny.
These guys were typical, you know, producers of the time. They were businessmen that had an easy job to, and I guess they must have done very well at it. Of course, we didn't know it, but they didn't know what the hell was going on at all.
No, he didn't understand animators either. He can understand. We had footprints on the ceiling, and he'd come in and look to see how. Couldn't figure out. He'd look and shake his head and walk out and leave. Never ask. He didn't dare because he didn't want to know the answer, I guess. We used to
Be too embarrassed.
We used to push guys up in the ceiling, and they'd put their feet up there, make marks.
Why didn't you take turns?
They had a bowling ball. They had a bowling ball,
Oh.
which they rolled. You were the one telling me about that, weren't you?
I think so.
Yeah, that from one end of the hall, they roll it down
Yeah.
periodically down to from Gordon's room down to Barbera's room.
But that was Rudy Zamora did that.
Rudy Zamora was it?
Rudy, see,
There you go.
Rudy Zamora did
when
that.
they signed the union contract at MGM, they established that the animators have to do 25 feet a week. Well, Rudy was a very cantankerous Mexican. He says 25 feet a week. And I guess he mulled it over in his mind. He never told a soul, but then he went into action. And from then on, he was never to be caught working at his desk. Yet he had to have 25 feet a week, and nobody knew why he did it. He was never working. Now, he's the guy that got a bowling ball and started rolling it down the aisle, you know, down the hallway, and Quimby heard this racket, bang, pow, came up to find out what he was. He was, say, Rudy, he says, what are you doing? What do you mean, rolling the bowling ball? Well, Mr. Quimby, you said 25 feet a week. I've done my 25 feet already, so now I can practice my, you know, my bowling technique. Rudy says, get back to your desk and get to work. No, I said, you said 25 feet a week. I've done them already. And this went on not for very long because, of course, Quimby very quickly got irritated with Rudy and his, you know, undisciplined behavior, and so he fired him. But he was the one that had that bowling ball gag.
How did he do the 25 feet?
Well, he used to work for me here. He pulled the same stunt on me. You know, he just he just was not to be caught working. God damn it, Rudy, I say, get on your desk and do some footage. Well, how much footage did you want me to do? Just work. I don't care. You're just supposed to work. We have to do this thing. Well, I'll work. I'll do it. I'll do it. But as soon as I'm ready, then he'd light up. He was a chain smoker.
Oh,
You
was
know,
he? God.
he'd light one from another, and his room that he had here in my studio was just full of burn marks all over. This gorgeous oak floor, you know, was all burnt everywhere. He dropped those crazy butts of his.
He was a beautiful guy.
Yeah.
Well, you two guys knew each other from MGM then.
No, I know
he
about
didn't
it.
He didn't work at MGM.
I never worked there.
He worked at Disney's, and then he went to Warner Brothers,
Yeah.
and then he went to UPA, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I didn't work at any of those places. So
No,
we only knew one another through the union work.
You just through the union that I knew Bill.
And until he was at Sutherland's, and that
At
was
Sutherland,
1940.
the only time we
That was
were
1952 or something.
51 or 52.
52 is when I came back.
Yeah.
I left the business in 41, and I didn't come back until 52.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
And I also left in 1935. I returned in 37 or 8 or something, I think it was. I'm always quitting the business.
It's always surprising that, you know, he'd be gone for so many years, he'd come back, and now he'd start animating the way he did, you know, 5 or 6 years before, and it had already changed a little bit. Like, I think when he came back, when I met him at Sutherland, well, I was hired at Sutherland
You were directing.
yeah, but I don't know why he hired me, because I had a terrible reputation.
You had a
Can't
terrible
be.
reputation?
Yeah,
Well,
I was
Yeah,
a
I
rabble
never-
rouser and a troublemaker.
when did
Never
you
heard
ever, when did
that.
you ever have a good reputation?
You were too good.
No, it's funny. Like for example, I was Bill Scott.
Sure.
Bill Scott was working at Sullivan, and he was a very good writer and very creative.
Was he
guy.
there before you were
Yeah.
started? Well, he probably put in a
So,
good word for
yeah,
you.
he's the one that.
Well,
that
Sutherland was a good guy.
well,
I
he
thought
was,
so.
Yeah, well,
He was okay with me.
Well, he always treated you real well because I guess you cowed him into behaving.
Well, I signed a
Because he
union
was-
I signed a union contract with him.
That was it, see? So he
That's
was
before I got work there even.
Yeah.
I signed the union contract and then I worked there later on.
Yeah,
So maybe that's,
but that was, well, John was all right. John was an old Disney guy. I met John when he was working at what we refer to as a Bambi unit. Or
what was he
they-
doing?
I asked him finally. I said, John, when I used to see you wandering around the halls there in the Bambi unit, what were you doing? What was your job? And he looked at me very strange and says, I'm a writer. I don't remember him being a writer or anything.
He was another little Rudy Zamora, never got caught working.
I think he took claim for that joke of Thumper when
Thumper teaching Bambi to ice skate.
yeah, one of those little sequences that were very like I don't know. But he said he was working in the story department. Well, he could be because in those days at Disney certainly the storymen didn't have to draw. They wrote, and then each one would have a story sketch band or a
Storyboard night.
yeah storyboard man. That's it, and somebody who would draw for him. He would.
He's just like Bill, same as Bill.
Oh,
He
yeah.
can't draw, you know.
Oh, yeah.
We always had this great
When
conflict
are you
about
going to
drawing.
do some work around here, Bill? You're getting like Rudy.
The Mexicans are all the same.
Loafers.
They don't like to work, and I guess that's why Walt got mad at us. I don't know why Walt got so mad at us. The Disney strike was a very strange thing, and I always thought that he could have been so easily solved at right at the beginning, if he'd come to us and said, "Now look, guys," he says, "we're broke. We're having a terrible economic problem in this studio, and I need help. If you guys will help me, together we'll do something. Now you guys want to join a union? Okay, you can join your goddamn union, and let's just get the studio back to the feet." And you know what? Everybody would have said, "Good." But no, he was he was a terrible person. He was.
Well, he started a company union, for heaven's
It was a
sakes.
company union, that
Prevent
was
a
a
legitimate union. You see, he was too paranoid about unions, I think.
He was a bigoted, mean man, and he just couldn't understand, that as workers and as artists that we had something to say.
It hurt his paternal.
And yeah, he wanted to be the boss. Like for example,
He's a patriot.
he used to sign his name to all our drawings. Now, what kind of a skunk will do that?
Gee, I didn't know that.
Of course he did. He used,
Well, he was a writer.
I once was, yeah, he was a writer too. I once was in New York, about 1951. I don't know, in the early 50s, I was in New York, and there was an exhibit of the art of Walt Disney, at the Museum of Modern Art. So I went in to see the art of Walt Disney. There's all these great pans and things, everything was signed Walt Disney. Everything was signed Walt Disney. It wasn't, he got plenty of credit just by being a great producer. Why did he also want to be one of the dog faces, one of the drawers, one of the animators? I don't know.
Well, he claimed that he did Mickey Mouse for many, many years.
See,
And then
that-
then it came out that Ub Iwerks really did Mickey Mouse,
He's the
right?
one who drew Mickey, yeah, of course. But I guess it's part of the, and so everything in those days
Propaganda.
everything had to be by
You know,
Walt.
I wish the hell I was that smart.
Well, you just have to learn to draw.
Well, I can almost sign my name anyway.
But didn't Walt have classes for all the people in the
Yeah, well, that
studio?
was
Yeah,
something
sure.
that was started, I think, by Art Babbitt started that. And,
Art
now,
Babbitt.
Art Babbitt was one of our leaders
Yeah.
during the strike. And, boy, Walt never forgave him for that.
Right.
I went back and we had a meeting, you know, years afterwards, when he fired, what's his name, Art Babbitt for the last time. We went to,
For the last time.
yeah, we had a, you know, because he couldn't fire him, see, right after the strike, because it was an NLRB decision that he could not take it out.
For 90 days, right?
Whatever it was,
I
yeah.
don't know how long it was, but
I think
then the
it was
war
90
came.
days.
The war came and Babbitt went into the Marines, I guess,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
But when, no, it was stipulated, I think, in the agreement with the settlement with the NLRB, that Babbitt wouldn't be fired, even after when he came back from the
Oh.
war, he didn't have to be rehired.
yeah, that was it, see,
And he came back and they put him in a corner someplace and didn't give him anything to do. And
and then they finally, you know,
finally
canned
fired
him.
him and,
And so we went as a, that's why it was years later, see, because it was
Sure,
after,
sure.
after the war. And, I went there, well, I don't know who the hell was there, I thought maybe, you know, you weren't with us.
I went
Anyhow,
there.
we went to see Walt about, you know, after all, you know, having some compassion for art, just out of the service, and on top of that, had this great record, he was a great leader of us, and he had started so many things, he was such an innovator.
Yeah.
And,
Well, he disturbed Walt a bit, I understand the story going, because he even wanted to have guys learn to do ballet, and they walked up and make them sissies or something.
yeah,
Yeah, that's how the story goes.
well, that was, yeah, see, that's what I'm saying, that, Walt was a terrible person, so he just,
Well, he had his problems.
Yeah.
I wish I
but
had
it all
some-
started with his economic problems. You know,
Probably. Borrowing money from the bank.
yeah, he owed the Bank of America like $7 or $8 million, which in those days was astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing that I certainly was disturbed about the character of Walt Disney when he, during the strike, was going on and on and on. It was one of the longest strikes that ever took place in Hollywood at that time. And he thought he could settle the strike through by bringing Willie Byoff back out of prison. Willie Byoff was finishing up a term he never served before for pandering, for being a pimp.
Yeah.
And Disney thought that apparently because he was in charge of the studio, I think Gunther Lessing was the guy that put him up to it. That was
Probably.
his attorney. That Willie Byoff was the only guy that could solve the problem of his labor dispute with the cartoonists. And he appealed to the governor of Illinois to let Willie Byoff out of jail to come to Hollywood and negotiate a contract with the cartoonists for the Disney studio. And Walt presented the cartoonists through Willie Byoff a contract that was better than what we were asking for, with stipulations that we would dump Herb Sorrell forever and that Willie Byoff would become the sole arbitrator of the contract. And for a guy like that, to bring a guy out of prison with a goddamn, you know, and Walt was running clean films, you know,
Yes.
family films, just absolutely couldn't, I cannot understand it to this day, why any person in his mind had any decency about anything, would do a thing like that.
Right.
It's so unbelievable. And yet he did. And of course he was involved in that. He thought that at that time too, I suppose, that Bill Melendez was obviously a communist with a mustache like that. He looked like Stalin even then. And
I don't think
You
he had a
did.
mustache then. I knew him then.
No,
he didn't have a mustache.
When did you first
He was
start wearing a
incognito. He
mustache?
wasn't Stalin. He was hiding out.
When did you first start that mustache?
Oh, about 1950, around there, I don't know when it was.
50.
Yeah, after the war. But you know, the funny thing about old Walt is, see, he was a very prejudiced and bigoted person.
Right.
And I personally witnessed several things that he said and did that were, you know, kind of shocking and embarrassing at the time. And for example, see, for a guy working here in Hollywood, you know, if you're working in Hollywood, you're always surrounded and you're involved in any kind of a culture or a thing, you're always surrounded by Jews. You know, it's always all around you. And he didn't like them.
Right.
He didn't like Jews at all. And also, he
You had the Babbitt, and there was
I
Hibberman.
know,
and-
all these good guys, but as soon as we all, you know, got involved in this doggone, you know, economic hassle with them, boy, we all became communists. And he said from then on, he's I heard him say this, you know, well, he's you know, he's a Jew, you know, he's Jewish. And he's from New York, isn't he? Well, he's gotta be a communist. He's a New York Jew, he had to be a communist. And what could you say, you know, the guy was, you know, and like, I remember one time, when we were there, somebody who apparently was very insensitive, hired a Hindu.
Yeah, you tell me
I
about
told that story, and this Hindu was very, you know, blue-black, as some Hindus are.
Yes.
And so, oh, the guy was, you know, walking up the hall, and old Walt stopped. I mean, I'm just assuming what he did.
Double take.
And he went to his office and he called, you know, whoever it was involved. Hey, I just saw a Negro in the hall. Oh no, that's not a Negro. He's a Hindu. He's an Indian from India. And old Walt said, well, he's pretty dark. Get rid of him.
Close your mouth.
And so, this was this big-hearted Walt, you know. God, you know. So these are kind of things that came out, you know, during the strike.
Mm-hmm.
In the strike, he got incredibly, you know, angry about us. As opposed to a, you know, producer like Leon Schlesinger, for example, who was kind of a fun producer, you know. We licked him once in a negotiation, and after he had pretended to get a heart attack, scaring the hell out of us. We thought we had killed him. Jesus, we killed him because he went like that.
Really?
Flopped on the floor, yeah. Oh my God! We got the officer to go call a doctor and do everything, so they dragged him out. Jesus, we killed him. He had a heart attack. He was like he's gonna die. Anyhow. Well, in a few days he was back and very cheerful and saying, and we forgot about this, you know, the labor negotiation and the strike, and so we didn't get a raise that year. So next year, again, we were going to have the labor negotiations. So he called us into the little theater they had there and talking about it. And he said, well, he said, you know, this is insane. We can't afford it. We just can't afford it. Oh, come on. They started arguing with him. Oh, no, I just can't. Oh. And now we looked at him and said, oh, don't give us that bullshit. No more heart attacks. He said, you did it last year, but you're not going to do it this year. Now man. So he shook it. Oh, okay. You got me this year, but next year I'm going to get you. And he walked out. But you know, he never harbored, you know, ill feelings about all this. No, he took it as part of the game.
Well, it's
And,
one of the shortest strikes in the history of unionism too. Wasn't the a walkout for about 15 minutes?
Yeah.
And go back inside.
Come on back. So that was, see, I mean, that's what, if Walt had behaved like that, we never would have had that crazy strike. I think it was the only and the longest strike ever. We never, again, have had a strike that long in Hollywood. You know why? Because the IA runs Hollywood, and therefore nobody strikes.
Yeah.
We had a couple strikes in the 70s, I think.
Yeah,
But not by the IATSC.
not the
Wasn't
IATSC.
it?
IATSC ordered him back.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
In the 70s, maybe there was, I don't know, I lost track of what the IA was doing, but it wasn't anything very serious.
No, they
No,
never have been. The IA's always been a. See, even though all the crooks they say went to jail or all fired or dead, but the tradition is still there. There's still a very.
Actually, what happened was that
slippery
the guys that were in jail, particularly Brown,
Brown, George Brown.
was in Biaf, they're both in jail.
Bill, yeah,
And Brown was the president of the International. And from the jail cell, he appointed his successor, who wasn't elected, he was appointed. Somebody has to change the tape.
No,
You doing all right?
I want to make sure that she's not in the camera.
oh,
You're good.
Anyway, from the jail cell, Brown appoints Richard Walsh, his
Right.
successor,
right,
who later on got elected at the convention of the ITSC as president, because he was an incumbent and he had it made. But Richard Walsh was his first vice president of Brown, and was part of the sharing in the profits of these gangsters who were shaking the producers down. And in this particular thing, they put an assessment on all ITSC people. And Cappy DeVal was the guy, he was called 1.3% Cappy DeVal, something like that. And he went around and they just did it. They didn't even have a vote to do this, they just did it. The bosses back in the ITSC. And Walsh was part of this. And they took the money was collected from the workers in Hollywood, taken back to Chicago, and distributed among the executive board of the ITSC, in which Walsh was one of them getting it. And it was hundreds of thousands of dollars each. In those days, now it'd be, you figure out what it'd be worth. The only guy on the executive board that didn't go to jail was Walsh,
right.
because he declared what he got as income and paid taxes. And the other jerks didn't. And they went to jail for income tax evasion.
Right.
And Walsh explained to the membership when they asked, what did you do for this money? You were getting a salary already. And he says, well, I did it as services for organization of labor, you know. I was organizing with it. And he didn't really. He just put it in his pocket, but he paid taxes on it, see? So he snapped through, and he remained president of the International for years and years and years, and honored when he retired by all the biggies of Hollywood came and faded him and declared what a great guy he was and all this stuff. He was a goddamn crook all the time. And of course he then appointed Roy Brewer,
Yeah,
who was his replacement for this Willie Bioff, who was blown up in Las
Yeah.
Vegas, you know.
right,
And Brewer was a clean guy until he got involved with this particular job, but then he was working for Walsh, and they were conspiring with the producers to screw the labor, which was proven in the courts. And guys, one of the big shot, Skink, Joe Skink, I think it was, went to jail over it. He was under house arrest in this luxury hotel in New York City. That's where he served his jail term.
wow,
Yeah, and Walsh was all part of this. Brewer was all part of this. And Ronald Reagan got part of it, as a matter of fact. And he was president of the Screen Actors Guild. He made it possible for he led the scab actors back across the picket lines so the studios could make films. And when Ronald Reagan, this was a conspiracy that was worked out with Brewer and the producers and Reagan. So when Reagan becomes president of the United States, you see the federal workers can't strike against the government, as
Right.
you learn from the traffic controllers.
right,
Anyway, Congress or the president appoints a head who handles the affairs of negotiating for the federal employees with the Congress.
uh-huh,
And he appoints Roy Brewer to head the federal government representative. And that's when Roy Brewer, that's even brought about when the poor traffic controllers, when Ronald was running for president, they came to him and said, we have big problems and we will vote for you if you solve the problems. He says, you vote for me, I'll solve your problems.
He did.
He solved their problems.
right, he sure did,
They sure
Wow.
did.
and the whole country.
Anyway, this is the way that trail of gangsterism runs. They always put a tail on you.
Yeah.
And that's where Roy Brewer was with Reagan when he was in the White House.
Mm,
It goes way back, a lot of skeletons in that closet.
mhm,
And the cartoonists got involved, and of course we were innocent little people about all this. And we didn't know anything, but that's when we bumped into this ghastly character, got blown up in Las Vegas. What the hell was his name? I just knew. What's the guy that blew up in Las Vegas?
Willie Bioff.
Willie
He was in an
Bioff.
airplane,
Willie
and it
Bioff.
exploded.
Yeah. Anyway, that's,
He got his just desserts,
but that doesn't talk about you though.
Yeah, what about,
Why don't you go back and take turns and tell us how you got into the business initially?
Well, I got in it before he did, so I guess I ought to say.
yes.
Go ahead.
Well, it was the middle of 1931. You people don't know anything about the Depression.
Oh, no,
No,
You're
don't
not
wait.
that old, young lady. You are.
sure.
Wow, you don't show it. What's your diet?
She'll just pass
Anyway.
it off camera.
And I got out of high school in 31. And boy, as old, somebody says about the 2,000-year-old man, he says, fear causes everything to happen. And it was a fear of starvation. If I didn't get a job, I'd starve. So I got a job in a cartoon studio in Van Buren. But it goes in it's
In New
kind of
York?
interesting. Yeah. The studio was being run by, I forget that. Anyway, he had worked at one time, years before, in the animation business. And at that time, there was no sound, and black and white. And they hired camera persons. Women ran the camera. My aunt ran the camera. But they were like a director because they determined the length of the film, the timing of the action, how many times the thing would be recycled, and they improvised. They had no sound of, they just had a free hand.
sure.
Anyway, they were having, it was very interesting that this would go out. Well, anyway, my aunt knew this man that became head of Van Buren. And my aunt heard about me starving to death, and she said, get that kid to work, I can't stand his skinny bones. So I got a job working at Van Buren in New York City. And 31, and I became an animator there. And then I quit in 1930. Burt Gillette came from Disney to save the studio. And I got along fine with Burt, we were having a good time. And he offered me at that time $100 a week
Wow.
to stay on. I told him I was going to quit. And he says, Bill, he said, I'll make you a director. You'll be a director, and I'll pay you $100 a week. In the middle of the Depression, you know.
Wow, $100
That was a
a week.
lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah. Anyway,
An offer
no,
you couldn't
I gave him
refuse.
6 months' notice, and I quit just at the time like that. And I came to California at 35. And I didn't come. I became an engineer, and then I got tired of that. They were so boring. Those people are so boring. Don't ever work with engineers. It's like watching glaciers move. And after the animation business, when people are so
Right, completely different.
I was falling asleep. I couldn't stay awake. It's so boring. I worked at Lockheed, and I went back. I wanted to learn to fly, so I couldn't make enough money as an engineer. So I went to MGM, where they paid me enough I could afford flying lessons. And there was a little airport right over in
Right
Culver
there,
City.
I know.
And that was very handy, and that's why I went to MGM, and I worked over there for 4 years, and the war blew everything apart. And I didn't want to come back. I didn't come back until I worked with Bill over at Sutherland's. He was directing over there. Henry Hawkins was there.
Oh, yeah.
Emery
Oh
Hawkins.
boy,
I
great
remember
guy.
him.
Gillespie was there. Arnold Gillespie.
Arnold and
George Gordon.
George.
Was not Pete wasn't.
What's the name? And Carl O'Connor.
Alabama.
Yeah.
It's a great studio.
All these great talent.
It's a great studio. and-
Wasn't Maurice Noble at
Yeah,
Sutherland
Was
too?
Maurice there?
Yeah, well,
I don't
after,
remember.
he
I
was
was-
there.
mentioned that
I
he
didn't
was
stay
there.
there very long.
No.
I didn't
well,
stay there very long.
After you left, I think Maurice came on, and then he left, then
Yeah, I worked at the
left.
Playhouse. I worked with Ada at the Playhouse. Well, the funny thing happened was that Finian's Rainbow was being organized, and Hubley and Les Goldman came out, and he says, I'd like to hire some guys, and they offered me a job at the work at Finian's Rainbow. So I told Sutherland, I'm going to go work on that. I quit. And then it came up that they told us that, boys, you have to join the ITSC. I said, huh, why? He said, well, the studio is going to be an IA studio. And I said, no, the studio doesn't select the union, the people do. Yeah? And they went, uh-oh. And everything stopped. And then the next word I heard was that the project's dead. within a couple, 3 to 4 days.
Really?
Yeah. And apparently there's some mob money involved in the financing of this back in New York someplace. And I don't know the whole story yet, but I heard they were upset about this whole thing getting messy, and they pulled out or something. So it fell through. So now I had to get a job. And someone didn't want me back. He said, "You quit me already, you bastard." Hell, you. So he saved my butt by, you were directing on the Q team for Aid, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I got a lot
And
of
you
work
threw
in
me
there.
commercials,
Yeah.
and so I got to do commercials with Bill directing it for Aid. And then Bill got his own studio, and that messed me up for permanently.
Yeah.
And let's hear about getting your own studio, Bill.
Well, that was by accident, because when, well, see, I was working with, you mentioned Aid Woolery, who's a very decent, nice guy.
Yes.
And I met Aid at UPA, and he was trying to get a studio started. Well, he couldn't, you know, he was a checker, and it was very hard for him to, you know, to get started. He just couldn't, nobody would give him work. They didn't know it from, you know, the agencies were very dumb and stupid. They wouldn't give him any work. So he asked me if I would work with him. I said, sure. Now, I happened to be a neighbor of a guy that was working at J. Waller Thompson. And the guy comes to me and he says, "Hey, I understand that you're an animator, and how would you like to do some spot for us at J. Waller Thompson?" I said, "Sure." I says, "I'll do them for you, but if you'll give the contract to a guy by the name of Aid Woolery that I know."
Were you working at Sutherland at the time?
Yeah.
That was the
See,
problem.
that was the whole thing. So I didn't want to go to John because I knew Aid. So I took all those things over to Aid, and one thing led to another, and God, we worked for quite a few happy, I don't know, 5 or 6, 4 or 5 years, I forget how long I worked with Aid.
Was that Playhouse Pictures? Oh,
Yeah. That's
Still in business.
yes.
But
Doing well.
again, see, there was so I got into a thing with Aid's son of all people, and his dumb editing department. He got me a job completely, you know, he just volunteered me to go teach animation they were starting up a school of animation at USC. So he volunteered me.
You got drafted again.
Yeah, I got dressed, so I said, "Oh, fine." I enjoyed it and whatnot. And so I used to bring all my projects. I'd come to the studio and say, I want you guys to read me this track, or I want you to do this or that for me. And so one time I gave this track to the editor at that time to read for me, and then I left. I just assumed they would do it. And then I came back and said, "Where's my track?" And they said, "Well, we can't do it, this thing. This is not, you know, give us a production number. Is this a company job?" "No," I said, "this is just for that damn class of mine at SC. Just read me the track and bring it to me." No, they refused to do it. They refused to do it. Now that was my studio. See, I treated it as my studio. Whatever I'd go to whatever I want done would be done.
Sure.
And these two jerks, editors, see, they have no sense. They decided to question my authority. So I went up to my room, picked up all my trash, and left. And Aid was very upset. And I said, "Aid," I said, "you know, I love working with you. We've had a wonderful few years, but I can see the writing on the wall now. These guys are going to take over the studio, and they are know-nothings. We're going to lose everything that we do to a bunch of nincompoops." One of them was his son. See, that was unfortunate. That's why I left. So I try to get work, you know, from the existing little studios around town. They wouldn't give me any work. "No," I said, "we give you our job, you'll take our job, you'll steal it from." Where the hell would they get that idea? I never stole anything from anybody. Anyhow, so that's how I finally, one agency was kind enough to tell me, he says, Bill, we can't give you any work as a freelancer, but if you go get a business license, then we'll give you some work. I don't know how do I get a business license? So I got in fact, that friend of mine from J. Walter Thompson, he recommended, he said, well, go see a lawyer. I have a friend lawyer, he'll advise you how you go about it. I said, well, very easy. Just go down to any city, downtown the city, and get an application for a city license. It only costs $18, and you're in business. So that's what I did. And
You were the sole employee.
huh?
You were the sole employee.
Yeah, that's just me, yeah. But then, see, now I got into a thing with, then I was at that time with John Sutherland too. I was trying to keep both things going, I couldn't, so I went to John, I said, I have to quit, John. And he got very mad at me, he said, what do you mean you have to quit? You don't have to do anything like that. Well, I said, I have another, I want to go work with a friend of mine who's starting up a studio, Abe Wolry, and he needs me. Oh, John got mad at me, really. And he started, you know, he was sitting there and he started talking, and I said, John, I was just giving you notice, I just want to shake your hand, I'm leaving. And he just kept on talking. You know, John was a great teacher, just go on and on, you'd like winding him up. I finally left the room and he was still talking. I closed the door gently and
Really?
and he,
If you open the door, he may still be talking.
well, but see, I think he was glad to see me go too, because we caused him a lot of trouble. Not just me, another Bill. Good God, all these Bills. Bill Scott.
Bill Scott.
See, John said, all right, everybody here, if you're gonna work here, you have to sign a loyalty oath. What do you mean a loyalty oath? You have to sign that you not have ever been a communist or anything like that there.
Really?
Yeah. So,
I didn't know that about it.
so I was directing for him, see, so he told me that. So I said, holy cow, John, this is a terrible thing to ask me. So I said, Jesus Christ, let me think about it. So I left the room and I worked with Bill Scott. I said, Bill Scott, he just told me this. And I'm sure he's gonna get you too, so I said to him, Bill, if you sign, I'll sign.
You're safe.
Yeah, Bill said, no, so he went to see John, seeing John gave him the same rigmarole, and old Scott came to me and said, tell you what, Bill, he said, we got a pretty good job here, it's easy and everything's fine. If you sign, I'll sign. I said, no. So I said that first, if you sign, I'll sign. And so, we never signed. And so John got kind of upset, but well, forget it, John.
How did you make, in later years, how did you make the contact with Charlie Schultz?
Oh, well, that was because we were doing commercials.
The Ford commercials, Falcon.
Yeah. Yeah, the same guy, you know, the same guy
His
who
neighbor.
was from J. Walter Thompson, who had got me doing those first jobs over here. See, through his connection, I got the New York J. Walter Thompson to ask me if I would, you know, bid on some job for him. So I did. And at that time, we were happily doing a lot of work for, you know, they were doing a lot of Ford Motor Company ads.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, the Falcon car particularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
so that's what started. Now, they came up with this idea of using, at that time, see, Peanuts had just started in 1950, and they right away became very popular. So, about 50, in the middle 50s, 54 or 5, something like that, they decided they were gonna put out a new car, and they were gonna use the Peanuts characters as, you know, to sponsor it or to be spokesman for it. Well, it was easy to say, but Schultz didn't want any commercialism. He was just like Bill Watterson.
Watterson,
Yeah.
like Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah, he just he didn't like the idea, and besides, he's had a very bad experience with Hollywood animators.
He did?
Yeah, what's his name? You know, the big tall director from Disney. What's his name?
Will he ride on it? He's a big joker.
No, he was the guy, he was,
Did he work with Leo Salkin?
no,
Yeah.
no, this was, what was his name? Jesus, he's been here in my see it here, he was the director, I think, on Fantasia.
Fahlberg?
No. And he was a director on,
David Hand? I don't know him.
no.
I didn't know who directed
Well,
it.
there were different directors
Yeah,
on
there were a whole bunch
Fantasia.
of them.
Yeah.
I'll think of it in a while, perhaps.
But don't call us at 2 in the morning.
No, what happened was that, besides, I don't wanna, this director approached Schultz and he said that he'd like to, he had already been fired at Disney, so he was unemployed. And I think he went to work at the UPA at that time. So anyhow,
Usisto?
Hmm?
Usisto?
No, the
Still helped organize it.
was the owner of UPA. The owner of UPA had been, I'd already been there and left, see?
Oh,
So anyhow, so this guy went to Sparky and Schultz
Saperstein.
and, went to Schultz and offered to, he'd like to, buy the rights to animate Peanuts, and he offered him $100. So, now Schultz didn't have a cent, but that was kind of insulting too, see? $100. A big movie director, big, motion picture project and $100. So he thought that these Hollywood animators and Hollywood types were kind of odd. So now comes up this thing of by getting involved with Schultz. So the guys over at J. Walter Thompson were pretty smart. They approached Schultz in a different fashion. They said, Mr. Schultz, have you ever driven a Ford car, or have you ever done this or that? And he said, well, yeah, sure. He said, the only car I've ever driven actually is a Ford. I learned to drive on a Ford, so that's all I've ever driven. So now, see, this guy, Harry Trowell was his name. He's very smart. He says, well, we have a new Ford coming out, name of the Falcon, Ford Falcon, and we'd like to use the Peanuts characters to give you, if you don't mind saying, a few good words about a Ford car, but we sure like to use that character. So Schultz thought about it for a while. He told me this, so I know that's true. And he said, well, that's true. He does like to drive a Ford, and it's the only car he's ever driven, so what's wrong with saying a few words about the Ford? He said, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing it. So he said, well, he's going to be an animator, so you have, wait a while, he says, who's going to animate it? See? He says, he was very suspicious. Number one, Schultz, in a way, he has that Midwestern thing of being suspicious of anything east of Chicago. He doesn't like New Yorkers, or he's very suspicious of it. Besides, he was dealing with the Syndicate, which is a New York outfit, see? So, and then now, animation, and he says, you mean from Hollywood, or? Yes. Oh, God, so, well, I have to think about it, and I have to meet him. So Harry said, okay, get a sample reel and send it to Schultz, and then we'll go and make a date and meet him. And if he likes you,
Where was he living at that time?
in Sevastopol.
Sevastopol,
Yeah, in Northern California already. And so we went up to visit him, and he was very hospitable, but very strange. You couldn't smoke there was no smoking allowed, and also he didn't drink, so no drinks were offered, completely alien to our animation world.
Speak for yourself.
Every time I go see Bill, right away he brings out the vodka and the martinis, and next thing you know, we have a few. But not Schultz. So Schultz, so we talked, just like we're talking now, and I showed him, he didn't mind, most of, the commercial I showed him was, those beer commercials and things like that.
Falstaff.
And you've done a lot of them,
Yes.
And
Eddie Mayhoff voice.
God, yeah. Now I lucked out, see, he happened to like Eddie Mayhoff. He thought that he was a good, good character and a good actor, and boy, he didn't know that
Hey, Mayo, quite a character.
a real character, and so, but he liked the spots, and so it was all right, and then a few other spots that we had, were very innocuous and not important, but he liked them. And the main thing that he liked is that, I think I said the magic word. I said, well, there's no reason to change your drawing. The idea is to make them come to life and to animate them just the way they are.
You like that?
Of course he liked that. Because see,
His ego trip.
yeah, see, I remember talking to Ted Geisel, because we wanted to do his stuff too, and he said, "Are you the guys that do work for Sparky Schultz?" Yep, probably. Yeah, you bet. For the guy, I don't want you guys to touch my stuff. So,
Really?
yeah. I
Well,
don't want-
hadn't Ted done something at UPA by that time?
Of course he had, and I
Sure.
mentioned that, but Ted, I said, we worked with you at UPA, and we were all right then. But, he took some kind of exception to it. But, so anyhow, so Schultz liked the idea that, and as soon as we started, animating and doing things, we tried the best we could to do it the way he
Sure.
stuff.
And those characters are not designed for animation, obviously.
No, not a bit, they're.
You turn the head of Charlie Brown and you get involved in the
Everybody says
complex
that.
set of
It looks like it's easy,
convoluted things.
Yeah,
but it isn't easy.
it's easy to ink and paint, but it's not easy to animate, right?
It's very difficult. So well, and he does it about the best of anybody. Certainly the best of anybody I know.
Now he tells me.
Well,
Trying to get it
I'm
out of him.
afraid to say that because as soon as I say that, then you'll ask for a big fat raise.
Well, that's what
And since I learned something from Walt Disney,
when I leave here, I'm talking to my agent.
Don't forget to get it retroactive.
see, you
That'd
can't.
be good. Thank you.
You can't
Get a
trust these New
bonus for that.
Yorkers. See, right away, they get down to the money side. New Yorkers. Anyhow, Walt was right. You're very suspicious of anybody. Well, like all Midwesterners, they're suspicious of anybody that comes the east of Chicago. You can't trust them. They're pushy and noisy. Anyhow,
Trumpers.
so the first few spots we did with Schultz, and he liked them. He thought we were trying, but he said, he was surprised that we couldn't draw them. So he came down to the studio, and I brought out a stack of, in those days we used to do minute spots. So I
Yeah.
brought a minute spot and put it there. I said, well, that's a minute spot. He said, good God, all those drawings? Yeah.
For 1 minute?
He said, I don't do that many drawings in a year. Well, but we have to do it right away for a 30-second spot or a minute spot. So he looks at the top drawing, hey, that's pretty good. And now he goes drawing at a time, see? Now pretty soon comes what he said. See, comes Charlie Brown to turn his head, and he goes like that, looks at it. That's not a very good drawing. Oh, this is terrible. Oh gosh, this is terrible. Well, this is almost right. He goes on. Well, that one's all right. See, he was going through in between. So I stopped him. I said, he kept going for a while. I said, all right, which one do you don't like? That's a terrible drawing. Okay, here's a pencil. Draw it the way it should look in that position. And he said, I never draw it in that position.
Profile or front?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, well,
The full Monty or nothing.
but we had to. But that gave me, see, what we did. We finally solved it by not really turning him. We started him going, and then we popped to the next
Yeah.
pose and finish it.
We tricked it. We
Yeah, so
faked it.
and so we've been able to get away with it. But now, the first, oh God, all those commercials we did at the beginning were terrible. And then,
Initially, it must have been very hard
Yeah, because we were
The
experimenting.
learning problem was involved.
We were learning how to, or
With our
trying
little
to,
hands and,
we were trying to,
Well,
and
even
most
shows,
of it-
even the comic strip was changing.
yeah.
He was changing at the same time. You
Sure.
look at the drawings of that time, and today it's like another
And
strip.
we had to try to keep up with them. Like, for example, walking, see? You know, they got little tiny legs. You can't take a normal step because then he started walking like slow motion. Yeah, we walk him on sixes and whatever he walks, but he's got little tiny arms. He can't reach around and, you know, and scratch the top of his head. There's no way he can do it. Not front view, but if you throw it side view, we can do anything we want, see? So we had to find all kinds of ways of solving that thing. And it's a good thing we did because that's what led to our first half-hour special,
Christmas?
the Christmas show. And I just saw it just the other day. Oh God, it looks terrible. But
It looked terrible then even.
yeah, but the troll, the thing, but you know, there's a
Public
lot of,
liked it,
uh,
the public loved it.
they love it, they still do.
Still do. Well, they don't know the difference, you know, they see, how would they know?
But see, again, this is where, you know, the animators are, I think, are, in that respect, are the actors of our business. Therefore, they are the guts of it. They're not as important as the writers, but the animator act out all this stuff. They inject emotion or whatever you want
Sure.
into a scene. And
We do?
and he
Now
deserves
you tell me.
and he deserves a big raise.
Right.
I agree with you.
Doesn't mean he's gonna get it, but,
And, no, but see, we're going through a very sad state of affairs in our business. Now we're still dealing with businessmen who don't understand that it takes more time for us to do, or if we're gonna do something very good, it takes more time, therefore it's more expensive. No. So they say, what do you mean more expensive? It's just drawing, it's easy. And you guys do it so fast, you do it fast. Don't do it slow, do it fast. You know,
Work more hours.
completely insensitive. And now, they have a horrible thing. If we say, well, we can't do it that cheap, that's just, well, they tell us arbitrarily, they've established what they want to pay. And you know who's helped do that to us? Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera, the cheapest bastards in the whole business. And they established, you know, ground rules
Super
for it.
limited animation.
Yeah, for us, that, you know, why should they make our bids or budgets? We work differently. So, it's become a struggle recently that we didn't used to have. Can you imagine when he said that in 1931, you know, he had a chance to earn $100 a week? Wow, that was a fortune.
Sure was.
I know other guys like him who were earning in those years up to $225 a week. And those guys had strings of polo ponies, and they had they drove always these great big cars, you know, these gigantic.
Duesenbergs,
cords,
the cords.
Yeah, they were just they lived like rich people here. They used to, like you mentioned Pabian, you know, Tony Pabian, the Jim Pabian now. He had bought a little house in Toluca Lake for like $6,000, which was a fortune in those days.
Yeah.
And he was a member of the club and played golf with all the biggies, including Walter Lance at Crook. And so, see, we've lost that. For example, now, to earn $225 or $250 a week in the middle of the Depression was like earning $250,000 now.
It's like Eisner.
Yeah.
I remember during the Depression asking my mother, I was a little kid, asking my mother for a penny so I could go to the candy store down the street and get a piece of candy.
Yeah.
And she literally did not have a penny in the house to give me.
People don't even pick pennies up on the street.
I don't.
I do, I still do, I have a bad habit, but I used to jump over the turnstiles in the subway.
Well, Bill, didn't you at one time work for Clampett?
Oh, well, yeah, well, yeah,
Warner Brothers.
after the strike at Disney, see, I went to work at Warner Brothers for a while, and I worked with Bob Clampett, and he was just a lot of fun. See, in some ways, he was the best of the four directors there. There was, you know, Chuck Jones and Chris
Frizz.
Fraley and,
Tashlin,
oh no, Tashlin was real good. Ooh. But Tashlin left, see,
yeah.
but before that was that real nice guy.
Shannicky?
Tex,
Not Shannicky, no.
No, the other director was,
when you came there was Tex Avery
uh-huh,
and Frizz Freeling and
Chuck.
and Chuck
yeah.
And
But
Clampett.
Tex,
and Clampett.
but Tex
And there was
left.
another,
Oh.
another one.
There was
There's
another
another
one?
one.
Yeah,
Artie
Tex-
Davis?
No.
Black, not.
Tex,
Gibson?
Tex Avery left and they put that guy in his place. And his name was,
Bugs Hardaway.
No, he was a writer.
he's still working around,
I have to know that, I was there.
Really?
I was there.
well,
Let's see.
if I could remember his name, you right away know who it was. He'd been working around it over at Hanna-Barbera, he'd been and around.
Good heavens, I can't, I remember I was,
I tell you, he also, when he was drafted, he
I
went
know
over
who you
to
mean,
work
but I can't.
He was-
McCabe, Norm
huh?
McCabe? No,
McCabe,
Norm McCabe.
Norm McCabe,
Oh, really? Was he directing there?
yeah, he was a director.
Very short time.
He died, did Norm?
No, no.
died just
No, not yet.
No, he's
no.
fine. Just talk to him.
No, he-
Great.
Norm McCabe was the other guy.
Norm,
But,
yeah.
I'll, see, Clampett was the craziest, and, Frizz was pretty good. Frizz was a very good director, but Frizz was terrible to work for,
Yeah.
because, see, now, we had 25 feet a week to do, see? But if you go over to Frizz, you have to do a minimum of 50 feet, because everything he gave you had to do twice.
Wow.
He'd give you a scene, and then as soon as he saw it, oh, God, you got it all wrong, he said. This is what I want. Now he started directing, you see, he changed everything. Oh, Jesus Christ. See, you already had written in for 25 feet, but I have to do it over again because he wasn't acceptable, see?
Yeah.
He was a real
He was a
scoundrel.
nitpicker. Well, he wouldn't, he said it just right, but he didn't have an idea what he wanted until he saw the
Yeah.
first pencil test.
Yeah, and that was,
And then he'd get his
yeah,
The
ideas.
juice is going.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun, I tell you, one thing about Warner Brothers that I should mention is that, from working at Disney, I was there for like around 4 years. And we were all brainwashed to think that this is the
The
only
best.
place. If you, once you're out of here, it's a desert out there,
That's
there's
right.
nothing, there's nothing left. And you make a terrible mistake.
McKimson, wasn't he a director at Warner Brothers?
Not
They're
not
not
early,
after-
not early.
Not until after Bob Clampett
Oh,
left.
yeah, he took over Bob Clampett's unit.
I see, that's the name I was trying to think of.
Yeah, Bob
Bob
McKimson.
McKibben.
Sorry.
Bob McKibben was a very nice guy, and I liked him a lot, but he was a terrible director. He was hard to work with, for, and for an animator, he used to, oh God,
He was a good animator.
he was a very good animator, and so he knew better. Every time he had a mob scene, like there'd be a
You
gorilla,
get the month, you
eight
get the
sailors, and Bugs Bunny, and they're all doing something. Ah, Bill, I got just a scene for you. You're gonna love it. And that was like about 3 weeks' work, see, but I could do it in 1 week. He was hard to work with.
But Bob Clampett was great to work with, they said.
Yeah.
And he, when you did the great piggyback robbery, wasn't that a good picture?
I tell you.
I
love the
remember
ball.
that.
They were all, see, I felt about Bob Clampett like he feels about animation in general. Oh, you can't show Bill an animated scene that he doesn't like. He likes every animated scene.
Is that right?
Even yours.
I know it. He does. He does.
Yours went bottom of the hill, bottom of the
He's
hill.
a real fan of animation.
When you were at Warner Brothers, they were, or at Schlesinger's, they were always playing such gags on each other, weren't
Yeah.
they? Do you remember that?
We were playing gags on everybody. We were raising hell with everybody. Jesus. When I came back from the service, what's his name, the production manager, the Red Fox,
Oh, that's Johnny Burton.
Johnny Burton told me, Bill, for Christ's sake, don't start this crap with a Jones unit again. Just leave them alone. We were on top of them. We're always boring holes in the floor so we could look at them. See,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
dropping things on them and making noises and just raising hell with them. And then they moved us. They moved us, so we put us over the Frizz unit.
Oh,
Now, when we were over the Jones unit, those guys, they were always complaining and, you know, squealing on us and everything. But the Frizz unit was a different kind of guys. They start fighting back. They got all kinds of things. We started boring holes so we could look at them. They right away saw what we were doing, so then they went out in the parking lot there, and they found great big poles, you know.
yeah.
And they got armed for us, see. And so yeah, so every time we do something, they bang! I'm calling it tremendous. They would come up all these holes that we had dug. One time they caught Emery Hawkins' desk in a corner, and that desk went flying all over the place. So Emery got real mad, and so then he played pranks on him, and then they came up and they saw all the legs of his desk off, dumped it. But we had a lot of, we had a lot of gags going on all the time.
Were you there when there was one guy, I don't remember his name, but he was very fastidious. And he always wore a hat and a tie and a coat. And he always locked his desk. All his pencils,
Yeah.
Everything had to be in a row.
I know the guy, yeah, I know exactly.
And he, one summer, he went up to Hollywood Boulevard and bought a Panama hat for $1.95 and had his initials put in. Is this beginning to sound familiar? And
Yeah.
he'd put on his hat and check his drawers and everything would be okay and he'd leave. And then the guys decided they're gonna go up to Hollywood Boulevard and get a hat, one too small, one too large. And they kept
Yeah.
switching hats on him. Do you remember who that was?
God, yeah, well, I know the guy.
I think you were there at the time.
figure out how
He
to
put the hat on and it was too small. And he'd look at it and he'd see his initials in it, put it back on and go out, and the next time he'd come in,
God, I was just thinking about it the other
they
day.
gave him a big hat and it went down over his ears.
What was his name?
We, at Van Buren, we had a fellow by the name of La Follette, and he was an old fella, white-haired, red-faced, small, and wore glasses, and he thought he was a ladies' man. And he had false teeth, and he'd always put his false teeth in a glass of water when he worked.
Oh,
And
gee.
he'd go home at night, well, and he'd go in the subway, and he'd smile at the girls. And fellows would also go home with him in the same car, so they see him doing this, flirting with the girls. So they got his teeth, and they put 4 letters on the front teeth. Shit. He goes in the subway train, smiling at the women.
God, that's a great gag. Good God.
These fellows are all fun with him.
But even though they were pulling gags on each other all the time,
Yeah.
everybody got their work done, didn't they?
Well, I had to get the work done, and it got canned.
Yeah, sure.
Did you ever work with Seamus Cohane?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Seamus.
yeah,
Jimmy
yeah, sure,
Cohane?
sure. Jimmy Cohane.
Yeah,
Jimmy.
Cohane.
He changed his name later to
Seamus.
Seamus too.
We all
Sounded
knew
worse.
Jimmy, yeah.
Yeah, he came to Van Buren, middle of the winter, came from California, and well, everybody there wore coats and ties and vests and overcoats with velvet collars. Kind of depressing, dude. You had to be stylish, or you wouldn't end up in the city. You get mugged, you think you're a bum. Anyway, so they hired this Jimmy Cohane from California, and he shows up. Came by train, and showed up and he's in slacks and just a sweater, a little light sweater and short sleeves, He doesn't have any gloves, he doesn't have a hat, he got an overcoat, it's middle of the winter. He's freezing, you know, everybody, and we look at this crazy guy coming in there like that, and we all said, he's gay.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Did we find out? Anyway, Jimmy was a great guy, and he was Jimmy, I don't know when he changed his name, I guess after the war or something.
I think it was after the war.
His wife told him to change it to something more
She was
Irish.
One of his
Better
wives.
character. Jimmy was too common.
But he was in New York because he changed it in New York. Then he came back here as Seamus.
Was that it? I don't know.
He also went to Florida. He worked in Florida
Yeah,
for
yeah,
Fleischer.
I guess he might have gone down there with Florida, you know, I guess he did.
Well, oh my God, a lot of those guys did. It was everybody's going.
Oh, you talked about Tashlin. Tashlin
Yeah.
worked at Van Buren, that's when he first came in, and he was, he could draw like crazy, he could
Oh,
animate
God.
like crazy, and he turned out more than 25 feet a week. He was very fast. But there was a George Woofle there that was sort of kind of he thought because Tash was so big, he'd make a prize fighter. And he got old Tash into training, jogging in Central Park, got him into a fight, got an arrangement for a fight, and Tash, I think, got floored the first. And that was the end of his boxing career.
That's good. I liked him. He was a great guy.
Oh, yeah, he was a wonderful guy. He was a good man.
Speaking of changing names, Bill, your name's not Bill.
That's right. Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Well, I think it started at Disney. I went to work at Disney, and they just thought my name was too difficult. Well, demo, see. They just, what the hell is that? That's my name. And that's a terrible thing. What, even when you get screen credit, you're gonna hog the credit because it's so long, and then it's just not right. So they decided, the guys around, they said, what we ought to do, how about if we just call you Bill? I was just so happy to be there that I just accepted it, see, so that ended my, but it's still, my legal name is still Jose Cuauhtemoc Melendez.
How do you spell your middle name?
Cuauhtemoc.
Now, was that your mother's maiden name?
No.
No, how does it,
No,
how did
it's
it
a
work?
given name. Cuauhtemoc is an Indian name that means falling eagle,
Oh,
but it's an Aztec, see, name. The Cuauhtemoc was the last king of the Aztecs, and my father was a romantic, see, so he thought it'd be great to give me that name.
I see.
And when we were little kids, there was another young captain there who was starting to have kids. And when he heard about our names, see, all of us had these funny names, he said, what a great idea. If I have a son, I'm going to name him Cuauhtemoc too. And now he's running for, see, some kind of a big shot down there. Cardenas, his name, Cuauhtemoc Cardenas. Now, they're not afraid of saying his name now.
No,
I even hear American, announcers give his name is Cuauhtemoc. Really?
really?
That's interesting.
Yeah, they are using their real ethnic names now. In
Well, yeah.
movies, you see them on the titles.
But your real name, Bill, would have filled up the whole screen.
Yeah, it gets out of hand, yeah.
Well, that's something I learned, though. I was smarter than Bill. I was named Bill at birth, and I figured if you want to have your name noticed on titles, make it as long as possible. So
See?
I changed it from Bill to William.
William Littlejohn.
It sticks out like this, you see, and everybody else is like that.
Well, but everybody in our generation were not named Bill. They were named William.
Bill Clinton was named Bill.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, was he? Not William Jefferson Clinton?
I was named Bill, just Bill, nobody called me William.
Oh, right, everybody calls you Bill.
Yeah.
And you should see.
But that was,
You should hear what some people call me.
Yeah, how about that, at other times?
Simple name like I have. Even.
But that was, I also, in the middle of the Depression, I graduated from high school in 35, 36, had to be 37, early 1937 that I got a job at Disney. They just finished Snow White, and for some reason, oh, I know why I went there to look for a job. I was working in a lumber yard, and I was always making, you know, characters and gags. And somebody said, why the hell, why don't you go away, why don't you get a job at Disney? What? Disney? Yeah, Disney. I don't know how they knew about it. I didn't know about it. I didn't know that Disney was hiring people, or I didn't know about what the hell, who he was or anything. It's a cartoon studio, they said. So, I went over to find out about it, you know, and he was over at Hyperion. So I went over at Hyperion.
Drake, did you see George Drake?
George Drake, yeah. So, but I just went up to the gal at the desk, and at the entrance to the studio, and she gave me a little book, you know, with problems in it.
Oh.
So I took that home, and I did what they wanted me to do. I made the drawings, and then I brought it back, and they didn't think much of it. And so they said, well, you obviously have no art training, and I didn't. I'd never taken an art class or anything. So that had to have happened sooner, because what I did, I went over to City College and found that they had an art class there. So I took a life class, and I started just making drawings. And what I was doing samples he would take back to Disney. So I went back to Disney as soon as I could with a bunch of samples.
That's smart.
And showed them to Drake, who also couldn't draw. Why would they? The guy that was with Drake was George Gepper. George Gepper and Drake were the one who were hiring, you know, young kids and putting them in. They used to have they had a class of an animation class, and so I saw old Drake. Drake didn't think much of it, at least, but Gepper did, I think. I think it was Gepper said, well, you obviously don't have any training, but you know, but you have some talent, and we can use a guy like you around here, you know, as a gopher or whatever it is, and so he got me a job. And so I started out in traffic, you know, just making errands around the studio. And but since I knew George, and I was in his room there, he's the one that would send me out on errands. And he and Johnny Bond would hand out. Hey, by the way, are you hungry? It's 1 o'clock. It's time to eat.
Is it 1 o'clock already?
Is that thing still running?
Yeah,
Oh.
an hour.
Oh my God.
Well, I don't think we'll keep you too much longer, huh?
No, whenever you feel talked out, we'll stop.
I would like to take a little tour around. Just,
What year is
you know.
this?
Okay.
Where were you, Bill? You were saying, isn't it time to go to lunch? I
Yeah.
remember.
Big help you are.
I looked at my watch. Oh my God, it's almost 1. Yeah. So okay, so it's after lunch. Let's see.
That was a good lunch.
But can you think of any of the gags or the tricks that the guys used to play on one another?
Oh, that aren't censored?
Well, you know how Tex lost his eye was they used to they got into you know, they used to go in through phases, and they got into a phase of shooting
Paper clips?
paper clips
Oh.
with
Rubber
and so
Rubber
they're always,
bands.
they're always looking around, see if they could get a guy bending over, and whop, they let him have it. And so old Tex was sneaking around, you know, ready to shoot, and he looked around a corner, whop, and he got it right in the eye.
Right
Oh,
behind.
no.
So that was kind of a you know, stupid thing to do.
It was stupid.
But one of the funniest thing I remember about, especially Leon Schlesinger, he was always heartwarming to me for that reason, is that he used to, you know, he was sort of a caricature of Porky Pig. He looked like a little, you know, like a little Porky, so he didn't stutter or do anything like that, but he was just our
He had a little lisp.
our image of Porky, yeah. So, and he'd, you know, he'd wander into a story man's room and look around. Didn't read anything, he'd just look around. And then he made an observation, he said, how come we never make Porky Pigs anymore? And it was true, we weren't making hardly any Porky Pigs, because nobody liked to make Porky Pigs. How come we don't make Porky Pigs anymore?
That's all.
Well, he went along, and once in a while he complained, you know, sort of in an aside, I don't know why we don't make Porky Pigs anymore. So one of the storymen, I don't know who it was, could have been a guy like Mike Maltese, I don't know, anyhow, came up with a great idea. He drew a whole bunch of stock Porky Pig poses and drawings. And then whenever he was working on a storyboard, every once in a while he'd put in a Porky Pig drawing. You know, it had nothing to do with the story, he just put in. And so Leon came in, looked around, Porky Pig. So then he started looking, Porky Pig. So everything he came across. Now he wasn't reading the story at all. He was just looking and he saw Porky Pig. So he was so happy, but he never once, to my memory, ever made an observation that here, apparently the guys were working on Porky Pig, but he never saw Porky Pig pictures. He was a real
Takes 6
producer.
months to see one, and by that time he'd forget.
Sure, but that was a real producer. He was a businessman. He wasn't an artist. And he didn't really read or know what they were doing. He just accepted it. He never knew when we had a good show or a good picture. Nothing like that.
Well, from what I understand, he was smart in that he knew that he didn't know. And the guys he hired, he had faith and trust in, and he let them do it.
He just assumed that everybody he hired was a professional. He left them alone.
It wasn't only Schlesinger, this is Warner Brothers. Wasn't the famous story that Chuck Jones tells about Harry Cohen, was it? Wasn't that Warner Brothers? That,
No, Harry Cohen was from
Columbia.
Columbia.
no, who was it that, what was
Jack
it?
Warner.
Jack Warner was
Jack
a
Warner,
colonel,
yeah, one of
yeah.
Warner's, yeah, of course. But anyway, somebody was interviewing the Warner brother and asked about what they do in the studio's productions are. He says, well, of course we make live action, and of course we make animated cartoons, and all I know about is that we make Mickey Mouse.
That was Barry Warner. Yeah, right. Right. That's in one of the books.
Yeah. So Leon was emulating the Warner Brothers.
He was. He was.
Yeah,
He-
yeah.
I think the one thing that he got involved in was with Tex Avery in The Heckling Hare. He didn't like the ending for The Heckling Hare, and he wanted
Wanted to change it?
wanted to change it, and Tex said he wouldn't change it. Said, we're gonna change it. So Tex said, you do, and I'll leave. And he did, he left.
That was Tex.
Yeah, there were two rabbits, the rabbit and the dog were falling down a cliff. And he wanted to end just where it did the first time, but meanwhile, they go up the cliff and they do it again. And Schlesinger's, I don't know if he didn't want to spend the money or what, he didn't like two endings the same way. So he fooled you, didn't we? They landed on their feet each time. And that's when he left. That was a big shakeup when he left.
The only time that, like at MGM, Quimby got into the act was that Milt Gross worked there. And Milt was, of course, this crazy, wonderfully talented guy from New York. Grew up in he was a newspaper cartoonist before he came to MGM. They had a series of replacements. Harry Hirschfield was
Yes.
at the, and a bunch of guys went in and out of there like a revolving door. And Milt lands on the job, and he couldn't conform to the format of Hanna-Barbera or to Hugh and Rudy Eising. And so he decided to do something of his own, and he did these two pictures. Count Screwloose and J.R. was one of his characters out of the comic strip, and another one about, I forget the title of it, but something to do with penguins. And they were so funny. They were the funniest pictures we'd ever seen in the studio, ever made. And we were all in the projection and just howling. And Quimby turned to a dark cloud, and he didn't release them. He said they're below the dignity of MGM.
Oh my gosh.
A little bit on the risque rough side, you see.
Oh.
But they were the funniest damn films we'd ever seen.
Oh.
I'll never forget that. It was a wonderful experience to work with that guy. Which that was then, right after that, why then he fired Mill.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Isn't that amazing?
So that's the only time I've seen actually Quimby interfere with the production.
He didn't like the idea of Tom and Jerry either.
At first.
At first, he did not like it, and when he let them do one, and it was very good, but he said, no more Tom and Jerry's, but they went ahead and did them anyway. And then he got to like them after they start winning
Well,
Academy
the audience, the
Awards.
public went out.
Mhm.
Yeah, they were funny stuff. That was really interesting the way Joe Barbera really was the spark plug behind that whole thing, because he would do these Leica reels, we call them then, I guess. And he'd do all these layouts and the character, he designed the characters and he posed the characters. And Bill Hanna did the timing.
Yeah.
Bill never had that knack, but I mean, Joe didn't have the knack of timing. But Bill did.
Well, that's good.
And it was a good team.
Yeah.
And when they'd show these Leica reels, so they project them, and gee, they were so goddamn funny just in that stage. You could have sold them right as they were.
Yeah.
In that crude pencil drawing and everything. But they were so funny. And they weren't much funnier after they got finished up, you know? Because they were really good. He was good. Joe was good.
Jack Sander, I understand, tells a story about Quimby, where whenever Jack would do a drawing and it wasn't any good, he'd put it on top of his desk instead of throwing it in the waste paper basket. And pretty soon he had a stack of all these drawings that meant nothing to each other. And Quimby came in one time and he flipped them. He used to see the animator flip their drawings, so he flipped all these. And he says, you know, that's going to be a good picture.
I have to ask Jack about that. I talk to Jack every once in a while.
Jack told that to a fellow by the name of Bob Casino, who told it to me.
Yeah. Oh,
I didn't hear it from Jack.
Do you know about Bob Casino?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
He calls up every once in a while. As a matter of fact,
Yeah, Martha speaks to
a
him
couple of
every
weeks
once in a
ago.
while.
And
I've
he's a
never
New York
heard-
guy. He's a fan of animation, and he's done a thing on MGM.
MGM people.
And
People.
people, and he wants to
Cartoons.
get the artwork from the studio. But I think Turner got involved, didn't he?
It's Warner
They
Brothers.
bought out MGM and whatever they do. And he's been struggling to get a
Yes,
release
he
for
is.
these photos
Yeah.
that he's collected, and they've been hemming and hawing like they want to do the book themselves or something. He thinks, the last time I talked to him, that was about a couple of weeks ago, that he says, it looks like he's making some
That's what he told me
progress
too.
in getting release of these photos. But he's been working on this book for a long
I
time.
know.
Why don't they release them?
I know, it's
Bill,
ridiculous.
weren't you in New York recently at some show that they had back there?
Oh, that's right.
You met him.
Bob
He
Casino?
said he talked to you. Wanted to talk to him after he
Well,
got
I
back.
did then, yeah.
Big,
Bob
tall,
Casino.
Yeah.
Guy-
Nice kid.
Yeah.
very nice guy, very enthusiastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I was just there last week.
Yeah, that's right. He
Yeah.
called me right after that and told me he met you.
I'll be darned, that's funny.
Yeah. He's a nice guy, so we all kind of
Yeah.
know him, so.
Now, Martha's never met him.
Never
Oh, I've
seen
met
We
him.
him.
just
yeah.
talked on the phone.
Yeah, he's been out to visit us a couple times.
Has he?
You know,
Well,
out for
I-
dinner and stuff.
Not recently, but I mean, he has been
Yeah.
out.
No, yeah. He's been wanting to come out, but his mother's been very ill.
Yeah, he's got a problem. They had him.
With his family.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had dinner with him. And,
He's a very cheerful fellow.
and I heard that, you know, he just couldn't leave his mother, so he just refused to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sure's a historian, he knows everything about our business.
Oh, it's
That's
incredible.
amazing.
He sent me collections of a lot of the MGM films that I'd forgotten I'd worked on, even a whole cassette loaded of these things. And you know, looking at these things after so many years, you get a different viewpoint. At the time when we worked on them, I could say, oh, geez, that's terrible, oh, God, I could do that over. But now you see them, you know, lay back and like seeing new stuff.
I can appreciate the old stuff much better now.
Well,
When I see
yeah,
it.
that's the way I guess it is. But some of the stuff was not bad. It's
Right.
pretty good animation occasionally.
Yeah, and see, never having been in the business, I've had a different perspective of all this. Now, I was the outsider, and when we were first married, I was very fortunate in that all her friends out here became my friends. And we had a circle of friends who were, they numbered, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 20, that I used to refer to as our cartoon group, because either the husband or the wife were in animation, or both of them. And about once a month, we used to have dinner together and go to somebody's house, and I found out at that time that you could not get two people from animation together in the same room and not have them start reminiscing immediately. And the stories that they had to tell, like the stories you've been telling today, to an outsider, Mike Maltese used to have me rolling on the floor when he told some of his stories.
Yeah.
Because he would act them out. He'd say, Joe Barbera called me today. And he'd pick up an imaginary phone. This was, his fingers were his phone. And all the time he's telling you about the conversation he had with Joe Barbera, he's having this imaginary phone held up to his ear. And so I just wish that we had been in a position to get started on what we're doing today.
Yeah.
Many years
Yeah,
ago,
when
when
everybody was
more
still-
of these people were still around.
Yeah, Mike was a special guy.
Wasn't he?
Yeah.
I remember we had a meeting once, years and years ago. God, it must have been in the 50s or 60s, I don't know, the early 60s. It was a long time ago, and at the Art Directors Club down on Vermont. And they set up a table, a great big table, and then there was a microphone in front of almost every seat. And I think they photographed it.
Oh,
no. And so everybody, you know, they had and Hugh Harmon and Rudy were there.
Oh my gosh,
And it's just everybody from you know,
the old days.
and everybody started talking. The idea was to just reminisce
That's a
and
great.
talk about everything
Yeah.
you could. Now, what happened to that tape?
Oh, what's that tape?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Who started it? Whose
Is
idea?
that the press club or the art club, art directors?
It was held at the Art Directors Club. I don't remember who sponsored it or who called it together.
Who would know? Anybody who was like maybe a lead speaker there that might we can pick their brains. Huh.
Incidentally, I have a tape here that I brought
Oh,
of this thing that was done over at the hospital opposite Disney's. When was
St.
it?
Joseph?
Yeah, what was the year, was that 50th? I don't know, what would it be?
How many years after the Disney strike was
Well, it
it?
was 41, and it had to be, what, 50 years?
50?
Could it be 50?
Oh, you mean when we were up there?
Yeah,
That was the 50th.
yeah, well, I have the tape of
50th anniversary.
this Utah people interviewed, I the interview they did of me.
Uh-huh.
And didn't they do one of you? They did, I think, maybe. But I have it here if you want to, I don't know how long it runs. It's in that,
Is that the
Yeah,
original though?
can we borrow it?
Well,
Well,
let's look at
Is that-
it
is that the
now.
original?
look at
or-
it, see if you want to use, it's in that envelope, see that envelope right
Oh,
there?
here?
Oh,
You-
should
you
we
want me to
stop
put it
this
on?
and,
Well,
You
I'll have
gotta
to
do
stop
that,
it
huh?
then. Yeah.
I'll try. Let me try one more time.
4 hours about Ronald Reagan, his life on the KCT, about a couple of weeks ago.
oh,
And you can see it.
no, no.
And it talked about his time when he was in Hollywood here and those strikes
Uh-huh,
and the fighting the CSU headed
Yeah.
by this communist Herb Sorrell.
yeah.
And they had a clip of Herb Sorrell there and everything like that. And I'm drafting a letter to these filmmakers, whoever the hell they are. I didn't get their credits. But I'm
Oh.
trying to find out because Herb Sorrell was just the opposite of being a communist. If anything, the communists were fighting him. I don't know if you were in on it.
I wasn't.
Yeah, when this Bill Pomerantz came in as the
Yes,
business agent
yes.
for the union after the Disney strike.
Yes.
Herb was acting business agent up until then. I mean, he said, Bill, you've got to get your own business agent. You're a union now, you're
Uh-huh.
got dues, structure, and you can do it. And so we hired this Bill Pomerantz, United States. What was his name? Doesn't matter. And he was assigned to come to Hollywood to work into the Hollywood union movement. His target was the screenwriters. He eventually ended up there. But I saw him at these meetings, these first meetings, with the Congress of Studio Unions. I was attending to it. And immediately Bill Pomerantz began to try to undercut Herb Sorrell. The red herring of communism,
Yes.
which they labeled Herb, and they continued it today, just a couple of weeks ago, when they honored Ronald Reagan. They said Ronald Reagan was fighting the Communist Union, headed up by Herb Sorrell.
I can't get them all.
But you got some of them?
I left out a couple that you might know.
Okay. I don't know any of them except you and that Abe Woolery.
Yeah. Well, I got the two Wooleries, I got Bernie Gruber.
And on the bus, and the bus driver went over the embankment a little bit. Not all the way down, thank God, but enough so that they couldn't get out the door. The door was jammed. And so Avery kicked the back window open, they all climbed out, and they all got out, but he says, can you just imagine, had we gone over the embankment and all of us were killed, there wouldn't be Chuck Jones, Tex Avery, or Friz Freeling. And a bunch of layout people and animators, Herman Cohen,
That's correct.
Paul Smith was there,
Oh, really?
Paul and Dixie were there, and there were a whole bunch of people, Dave was there. Got something to say?
Well, I was gonna have, Bill Littlejohn come over here and talk about the picture that we have over
Okay.
here.
Hey, go up there, little John.
What am I supposed to do?
He's just gonna explain this picture, you know, when this was taken, who's in the photo.
Where do you want me to be, around this way?
Yeah, just right here.
This photo was taken in Sun Valley, Idaho, by Warren Miller, the ski filmmaker. And that's my wife, Feenie, and that's me on the left, believe it or not. I can't remember when it was made. I said the other day, just a couple of weeks ago, isn't that nice? Many, many years ago, I guess. Anyway, but Feenie, I wanted to tell you, worked at Disney's. She was one of the first women to be hired to do creative work there. She worked with the Joe Grant department and did model created characters and designs of children mostly. And because she was trained, she came from Vienna and had this style that she knew by heart that they used immediately in Pinocchio. And that's, I didn't know her then. She was one of those who was laid off in the big layoff. And I didn't meet her until 1941 down in Malibu, where we live. Matter of fact, the very room we met is where we got married, which is not far from where we live. That's the story. So, yeah, it's going to take long.
Yeah, if we'd had Mike Maltese,
Yeah,
we would have had
well, a never-ending story.
Never-ending
because he
story.
had so
Cal
many.
Howard and all these
Cal.
guys. They're
Yeah.
just
Oh,
full
Cal
of
was a
great
riot.
stories.
Cal was a
They're great
riot.
storytellers. Yeah.
Bill, I don't know if Mark ever told you that when Mike died, he and his wife had been quite close. And she thought that Florrie might appreciate having a videotape of cartoons that Mike worked on and got screen credit for. So she started making up a tape from the cartoon shows that were on television. And I came home one day when she was working on a second tape like that, because there'd been so many of them.
Yeah.
And I said to her, you started at Leon Schlesinger, who sold out to Warner Brothers. Wouldn't you like to have your own library of Schlesinger and Warner Brother cartoons? And she said, gee, that might be a good idea. Well, in those days, I don't know about today, but in those days, there were 7 cartoon shows on television every day. And she started taping them. And from books on animation that we have at home, she was able to determine that between Schlesinger and Warner Brothers, they made 1,027 cartoons.
No kidding.
She now has every single one of them on videotape.
That's wonderful.
I even have Bosco, the Talk Inc. kid. That little
I never heard
pilot.
of that one.
That was the pilot that Rudy and Hugh took around to all the studios trying to get somebody to produce a
Yeah,
series
yeah,
for
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
And they finally got Schlesinger to do it. They went everywhere, and they were turned down everywhere. They went to New York, they went to all the places around here, and nobody would do that little Bosco. And Schlesinger said, well, I'll give you a chance to do it, because he wanted to get in the cartoon business. He was in the title business. He had
Oh,
Pacific
is that
Title.
what he did? Really?
Pacific Title, he owned it.
It's
And,
still going, isn't it?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
of course, he
uh-huh.
sold it out very early.
Yeah.
But he was afraid that because talkies were now coming in, that there'd be no more titles, or not enough to.
He didn't think right.
He didn't think ahead.
Find out who it is?
No, she didn't know much.
Yeah.
She couldn't remember.
Oh, that's okay.
There's
I'll
only
just,
3 people I left out.
well, that's all right.
That's pretty good, Bill.
That's good.
After
Considering
Pee-wee,
you-
this one, and this one, and these 2 girls, and these 2 guys.
Oh, good.
Got the rest. And I have a terrible memory.
It's your only defense, kid.
That's all of ours defense. That is my defense now,
No.
and nobody questions it.
Sam used to say, it's the years, Bill, the years.
It is? It sounds pretty good to me today.
The years are going by too fast.
They are.
Oh, the older you get, the faster they go.
Yeah.
That's what they say, that's true.
Well, the thing that I find about the aging process that's quite, they never told me about when I was young, is that gravity gets stronger the older you get.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
You notice it too, huh?
I was once 5'2", now I'm only 5 feet.
Well, no, just trying to get out of a chair.
Oh, well, that part, yeah.
You still get up every morning and go out and take a 5-mile swim?
Oh, yeah. Now it's down to 3 now.
Oh, you swim?
Catalina, go
Yeah.
Catalina and back.
That's ambitious. I'm a swimmer too, is why I was that.
That has only been done once, hasn't it? Wasn't it done by a woman a few?
I think it's been done now many times.
Has it?
20 mile there and back, 40 miles. It's been done before.
Yeah,
A woman
mile
did it,
swim
I
is
think, maybe
amazing,
first
so
on-
Yeah.
20 miles is disgusting, so.
Yeah.
I've forgotten her name. Her name was very well known at the
Yeah.
time. I don't remember what it is.
I wanna say Everly, but it's something like that, isn't it?
That's good that you remember that name,
I don't know.
Beverly, yeah. She was an Olympic swimmer, I think.
Yeah,
Channel, she swam the channel,
That's
yeah,
right.
the channel,
English.
the
English
real
channel.
channel.
the English channel.
Yeah, that's just, that. I like swimming, but that's just.
Well, now you can
repulsive.
walk to Catalina, the water's so polluted.
Yeah.
Oh.
No,
So
no.
we should take
The-
some photos
the
of
funny
the
thing is that
stuff
I
in
think-
here.
Yeah,
About the
yeah, we're gonna
smog
have
in
to
Los
plug in
Angeles.
to do it though, we can't handhold it.
So bad
Oh,
that a
man.
guy shot an arrow into the air and it stuck.
Well, these are 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 Emmys of 8 that we've gotten. And 2 have become doorstops for some worthy soul who's taken them. But and this is some kind of a art director's thing. And the other things are from other awards. Well, the best one of all is that one up here. It's a Peabody Award. We got 2 of those. And, but you know, they don't mean much. When it comes to getting a job, you still have to bid on it, and the lowest bid will get the job. Awards and odds and ends of things. They're nice because they kind of fill up all that empty space, but when people ask me what they are, I have to look down and start reading. And some I can't read because some are Japanese. But this is it, yes. Here's a nice award from one of the moonshots, the crew or the captain of that shot, what was it? Forgot what it was. I forget what it was. Could have been 11th or 12th. Sent me that thing just because I had made that drawing.
It's pretty good.
In the late 60s, 1960s, and he was on. For some reason, I came to the studio dressed in a typical Mexican charro outfit because he was the Mexican Independence Day. He was, I guess, must have been in the, say, 1967, December 16th, something like that. That's me. I'm bigger and fatter, and this is like about maybe 1972 or 3, and he was on my birthday, and they drew me a T-shirt right here. Happy birthday, Bill, he says there, and they put down Big Bill because I am getting bigger. This is around in the 80s, maybe 84, 85, and this is at Cal Arts. I'd gone there to give a lecture about UPA and animation in general in the late 40s and 50s, and I got into a big argument with another guy from the old the UPA days, and as you can see, I hid in my embarrassment, and there I am. And this is a relative new photograph of me taken by a young fellow by the name of Arnold, Jeff Arnold, good photographer. And I like it because it feels like I look like that, but I'm not sure. Anyhow, this was taken about 1990, around there. And I'm turning real gray now. Yes. Now this one is I think taken also by Arnold, Jeff Arnold. I'm not sure, but I think he was he. And he was just looking at me and for some reason liked my pose and took a few pictures. Now this was taken like about, no more than about two or 3 years ago. It would be about 95, I guess, 96. My golly, I'm getting gray, yes indeed. Okay, now this is how I look now. Don't forget that I'm an artisan, so as I get older, I draw myself getting older. My mustache, though, is getting too small. I can see that I've been trimming my mustache too much.
Sign it, Bill. That's the way he envisions himself.
Yeah, that's what I look like, see?
And I still think of him as
As she